Ash fell like snow over the broken rooftops of what used to be Haven Ridge, a small town buried in the heart of a forgotten valley. Once it had been vibrant, children played in its streets, sirens only meant fire drills, and the worst threat was a bad storm. But now, a deeper silence claimed the land. No birds. No engines. Just the distant, occasional groan of something not quite human. Inside the wreckage of an abandoned train station, a small group of survivors huddled around a rusted lantern. Its dim flame cast trembling shadows across their gaunt faces. There were only 8 of them now. Once, they had been over 30. Time, and the undead, had carved that number down. Jonas, the group's unspoken leader, stared at a crumpled radio receiver clutched in his gloved hands. His face, lined by stress and sleepless nights, twitched as static sputtered from the speaker. Again, he said, voice barely more than a whisper. Beside him, Marla adjusted the frequency dial with delicate fingers. She had once been a broadcast engineer, before everything fell apart. Her brown eyes never left the needle. The air was thick with breath and tension as she fine-tuned the device. Then it happened. Safe, north, dawn, repeat, if you can hear this. Everyone froze. Jonas leaned in. We have shelter, repeat, we have shelter, North Ridge, Beacon 7. Static followed. Then silence. Jonas sat back, breath caught in his throat. It's real, he muttered. Someone's out there. Tension rippled through the group. After weeks without a word from anyone outside their dwindling circle, the message hit like a bolt of lightning in a dead sky. Could be bait, said Travis, the youngest in the group. Only 17, but already hardened by loss. Could be a trap. We don't have the luxury of staying put either, said Elise, the medic who had stitched more wounds than she could count. We're low on water, and the pharmacy's picked clean. But the infected, Marla began, her voice trailing off. Jonas looked at each of them. We've been surviving in the ashes. That's all we've done, survive. This, he gestured to the dead radio. This could be a chance to live again. To hope. They didn't respond with cheers. Just tired, nodding eyes that said, we've got nothing left to lose. By morning, they were ready. Supplies were packed, what little they had, 3 rifles, 2 pistols, a fire axe, canned food, and water filters. Marla carried the radio, still hoping it would catch more signals. They left the train station in silence, passing through rusting boxcars and overgrown rails swallowed by ivy. Outside, the town was unrecognizable. Buildings were half-collapsed or blackened by fire. Cars rested like tombstones in the middle of streets. On the library wall, someone had painted a message in thick black strokes, "The dead don't forgive." They traveled in tight formation, weapons drawn, every sound amplified by the dead quiet around them. Elise kept glancing behind. Travis walked ahead, machete in hand. It had been a gift from his older brother, before the bite. Before the screaming. 2 hours into their journey, they reached the old post office. Marla stopped. Her eyes locked on something in the window, movement. Jonas raised a hand, signaling silence. Suddenly, the glass shattered, and a figure burst through, feral, fast, and snarling. Not quite dead, not quite alive. Its jaw hung open unnaturally wide, gums blackened, eyes milky white. It sprinted toward Travis. But Travis didn't hesitate. The machete came up, and with a sickening crunch, the creature dropped. Dead for real this time. Runner, Elise gasped, crouching by the corpse. They're evolving. Jonas swore under his breath. We need to keep moving. Quietly. As the sun dipped behind the ridge, painting the sky in blood-orange streaks, the group reached an overlook. Below, the valley stretched wide, broken and bleak. But in the far distance, beyond a riverbed choked with debris, they saw it. A blinking red light on a tower. Beacon 7, Marla whispered. For the first time in weeks, Jonas smiled. Just a little. Let's hope it's more than a light show. But even as they descended toward the valley, they didn't notice the shadow watching from the treetops, pale-skinned, silent, almost human, but not. It crouched unnaturally still, head tilted, eyes tracking their every step. Hope had returned. But so had the danger that hunted it. And the dead were never far behind. They moved like ghosts through the valley, quiet, deliberate, always watching the treeline. The blinking red light of Beacon 7 gave them direction, but not assurance. The terrain was treacherous. Roads were cracked open by time and war. Cars, trees, and collapsed buildings made the path more like a maze than a journey. Jonas led the group with a steady but cautious pace. He kept his rifle close to his chest, finger near the trigger. Every sound, a crunch of gravel, a bird taking flight, tightened the group's nerves. None of them trusted silence anymore. It never lasted. Travis walked beside Marla, who was fiddling with the radio again. She hadn't slept, too focused on trying to recapture the voice they had heard the night before. It hadn't returned. Not even a whisper. Maybe the signal was a fluke, she said, half to herself. No, Travis said. It's real. I felt it. You felt it? He gave her a tired smile. When you've lost everything, hope feels like fire. You don't forget warmth. Marla didn't respond, but his words lingered. She tucked the radio back into her bag and moved closer to the group. The others were already stopping near a broken gas station for a short rest. Elise took the opportunity to check Jonas' arm. He'd been hiding a burn he got while lighting a fire 2 nights ago. It's nothing, he had said then. It's worse now, she murmured, peeling back the makeshift bandage. The flesh was angry and red. Infection's setting in. We'll need antibiotics soon. There's no pharmacy here, Jonas said. Not one that hasn't been ransacked. Then we pray Beacon 7 has more than electricity. Meanwhile, Garrett, the quietest of the group, stood lookout near the edge of the ruins. He rarely spoke. Since his sister's death in a school collapse weeks earlier, he had withdrawn into silence. But when he did speak, people listened. So when he turned suddenly and whispered, "Movement," everyone froze. Travis ducked behind a rusted car. Elise, Marla, and Jonas crouched near the station wall. Garrett pointed toward the edge of the forest. At first, they saw nothing. Then, shadows. Dozens of them. They moved slowly, almost too slow. Half stumbling, half drifting. Their arms dangled loosely. Clothes torn. Some missing limbs. Faces eaten away by decay and time. A pack of the truly dead. Walkers, Jonas muttered. A horde. Marla's eyes widened. They weren't there 5 minutes ago. How? They're following something, Garrett said. Travis raised his machete. Us. They had no time. Jonas motioned silently. We split. North group cuts through the drainage tunnel. South group takes the ridge path. That ridge is steep, Elise argued. If someone falls, we won't have a choice if they corner us. Go! They broke into 2. Jonas, Elise, and Garrett took the south path, hugging the ridge's crumbling edge. The rest moved toward a narrow ditch hidden beneath a collapsed chain-link fence. Dirt and rubble scraped against their hands as they crawled inside. The space was tight and filled with mildew, but it offered cover. As the horde grew closer, the sounds became unbearable, low gurgles, the wet slap of bare feet, gnashing teeth that clicked in empty hunger. One of the undead suddenly stopped walking. Its head snapped in Travis' direction. It smelled him. Before Travis could move, the creature let out a horrific screech, sharp, high-pitched, unnatural. Not a walker. A screamer. Oh no, Marla whispered. The scream sent the horde into a frenzy. The dead changed direction. Not slow anymore. Faster. Driven. Jonas heard it from above. They've been spotted, he growled, gripping his rifle. Garrett, cover me. From the ridge, he fired, clean shots. The screamer dropped, skull blown apart. A few others fell in the chaos. But it wasn't enough. "They're still going after them," Garrett shouted. Marla and Travis crawled as fast as they could. The drainage tunnel sloped downward, leading to a rusted gate and a drop. They didn't care. Behind them, the horde filled the tunnel entrance. Elise, from above, took aim and fired a flare into the sky. Not to signal for help, there was no one else, but to guide the other group through the rising smoke and ash. The flare lit the ridge in red, revealing something terrifying: more figures, but not walkers. Runners. They emerged from the far edge of the ridge, thin, twitchy, eyes like glass, moving in sprints and jerks. They were faster. Smarter. Jonas stared in disbelief. "They're evolving." Again. The two groups reunited at the bottom of the ridge just as the sky began to darken. Garrett slammed a maintenance door shut behind them. Travis jammed a pipe through the handle. The undead pounded at it, shrieking. Inside the dark tunnel, breathing heavy, soaked in sweat and dust, Jonas finally spoke. "They're not just following us anymore." Marla nodded, pale as bone. "They're hunting." The tunnel stretched into blackness, carved decades ago as part of an old storm drain system. Its air was thick, stagnant, metallic, and filled with the scent of mold and damp concrete. The sound of dripping water echoed endlessly, masking the distant growls that still lingered behind the heavy door they had just sealed shut. Garrett's hands were trembling as he adjusted the flashlight strapped to his shoulder. The others stayed close, breathing heavily, their boots crunching over old gravel and debris. The flare above ground had died, but its red glow still flickered faintly in the back of Jonas's mind. "We need to stay quiet," Jonas whispered, turning to the others. "If there are more of those runners nearby, they'll hear everything." Marla nodded, her face pale and focused. She clutched the radio like it was the last thread tying her to sanity. "Beacon 7, we have to be close. Less than 5 miles if the map's right." "And if the signal wasn't fake," Travis added, his voice low but edged with fear. "It wasn't," Elise said, firmly. "I saw the tower. Real light. Real people. They moved slowly now. Every step in the darkness was a gamble." The tunnel split ahead, 3 separate paths, marked only by faded maintenance signs and rusted pipes. Jonas raised his flashlight and scanned the walls. Scribbles. Numbers. Arrows. Then a single word: salvation, painted in red. "Someone's been here," Marla said. "Recently," Garrett added. "The paint's fresh." Jonas pointed to the right tunnel. "This way." They stepped into the side passage. The ceiling was lower, and the smell worse. Garbage. Rot. The stench of something long dead. Still, they pressed forward, the thought of Beacon 7 pushing them beyond their fear. Suddenly, Garrett stopped. His flashlight beam had caught something ahead. A body. No, bodies. 3 corpses lay piled beside the wall, half covered in a torn tarp. Jonas approached slowly, motioning for silence. He crouched and peeled the tarp back, revealing what was left of the people beneath. "Gunshots to the head," Elise whispered, examining the wounds. "Execution style." Travis stepped back, shaken. They weren't infected. Jonas looked around, suddenly alert. They were survivors. Someone killed them. Marla gripped the radio tighter. Why would anyone do that? No one had an answer. Then the radio crackled. "If you can hear this. Beacon 7 is safe. Approach the red tower at sunrise. Armed personnel will escort you." Marla's hands shook as she turned up the volume. The message repeated again, word for word. And again. Jonas frowned. "It's on a loop." "They're broadcasting," Marla said, hopeful. "That means someone's keeping it alive." "Or someone left it running," Garrett said. "To lure people in." Jonas stood up, scanning the walls. "We push on. Carefully. Stay ready." As they turned another corner, a strange sound broke the quiet, metal scraping against concrete. Not the infected. Something smaller. From the shadows, a figure stumbled forward. Not undead. A girl. Barely 16. Filthy, starving, terrified. Wait. Elise stepped in front. She's human. The girl fell to her knees, hands raised, eyes wide with panic. Don't shoot. I'm not sick. I'm not one of them. Jonas lowered his weapon slowly. Who are you? I'm Lila, she stammered. I was with a group, 20 people. We followed the signal too. But, it was a trap. Marla knelt beside her. What happened? Lila's voice cracked. There were soldiers. They weren't there to help. They killed anyone who got too close. Said the valley couldn't afford more mouths. Everyone fell silent. They left me, Lila whispered. Said I was too young to matter. Garrett's face darkened. They're cleansing the survivors. Or hiding something bigger, Jonas muttered. Then why keep the beacon running? Travis asked. Bait, Garrett replied. To pick off the desperate. Jonas helped Lila to her feet. You're with us now. We're not going to leave anyone behind. Marla nodded. That signal, we still have to follow it. If there's any truth behind it, any real survivors, maybe we can get answers. Or stop whoever's doing this. The group pressed on, now with Lila in tow. She was fragile, traumatized, but she knew the tunnels. She guided them through passageways even Jonas's map didn't show. Pipes above their heads groaned as if the city itself mourned what it had become. Then, light. A faint glow ahead, leaking through a grated wall. They approached slowly, peeking through the rusted bars. Beyond the grate was a clearing, an old pump station repurposed into a staging ground. Floodlights glowed. Makeshift barricades lined the perimeter. And armed guards, real, breathing humans, stood watch with rifles. Beacon 7, Jonas whispered. But it wasn't a refuge. It was a camp. And the prisoners locked in cages were all wearing survivor gear. Marla stepped back in horror. They're not rescuing anyone. They're collecting them. Jonas gritted his teeth. Then it's not just the dead we're running from. The survivors stared through the rusted grate, hearts pounding. Beyond it, Beacon 7 stood like a promise broken. Searchlights scanned the clearing. The camp wasn't a shelter, it was a prison. People, just like them, were locked in cages made of steel and welded pipe. Some paced like animals. Others sat, heads bowed, too weak to move. Armed guards patrolled the area in rotating shifts, their uniforms marked with no insignia. They looked organized, precise. And dangerous. Jonas ducked away from the grate and motioned for the others to follow. They moved back into the tunnel shadows, away from the light. That's not a refugee center, Elise whispered. No, Jonas replied grimly. It's a sorting camp. Marla sat down hard against the wall, hugging her knees. What kind of people do this? Broadcast hope just to lock us in cages? They're not people, Garrett muttered. Not anymore. They're selecting, Lila said quietly. When I was with my group, we heard them talking. The healthy, the strong, they took them inside a building. Said they were being processed for integration. No one ever came back. And the rest? Elise asked. They kept the sick, the injured, the old, in the cages, Lila said. Then they disappeared. Garrett shook his head. It's a cleansing. They're playing God. Travis punched the wall in frustration. We came all this way for this? All this blood, for a death trap? No, Jonas said. We came for hope. And now we fight for it. Marla looked up at him. You're thinking of going in? We don't leave people in cages, Jonas replied. If there's even a chance someone in there knows how to take this place down, we take it. A plan began to form. Lila had seen a maintenance shaft that fed directly beneath the camp. It was sealed from the outside, but the tunnel system gave them a chance. If they moved fast and stayed low, they could breach the camp's underbelly. They won't expect an attack from below, Garrett said. They're too busy watching the woods. Elise checked her pistol. We only have limited ammo. Jonas nodded. Then we don't waste it. We go quiet. In, out, and gone before they know we were there. Before dawn, they made their move. The tunnel that led beneath the camp was flooded knee-deep, cold and slick with oil and filth. The air stank of rust and chemicals, but the survivors pushed forward, every footstep careful. Above them, faint thuds echoed, boot steps from the patrolling guards. Jonas reached the hatch first, a corroded iron slab bolted shut. Garrett moved beside him with a crowbar and a small toolkit he'd scavenged from a collapsed auto shop weeks ago. In near silence, he worked the bolts loose, sweat dripping from his forehead. Click. The hatch opened with a soft groan. They climbed into the shadows of Beacon 7's underground level. It wasn't a bunker. It was a lab. Steel tables. Blood-stained tarps. Monitors with flickering vitals. Empty syringes and shattered vials littered the floor. What is this place? Marla whispered, horrified. A voice answered. Testing. Everyone spun, weapons raised. A woman stood in the shadows, shackled to the wall by both wrists. Pale, weak, but alert. Her lab coat was torn, blood crusted on the collar. Her eyes glinted with desperate recognition. You're not with them, she said. Are you? Jonas stepped forward cautiously. Who are you? My name's Dr. Sorelli. I helped build this place before it turned into this. You helped them? Travis snapped, aiming his weapon. I tried to create a cure, she barked back. But they shut us down. Turned it into a military experiment. When my results weren't useful to them, they threw me in here like garbage. What kind of experiments? Elise asked. She looked at the vials. They were trying to make people immune. But something went wrong. The early tests, they didn't cure the virus. They made it evolve. That's how the runners were born. Everyone froze. You're saying those things out there. We're human once, Sorelli said. My formula triggered something in the infected DNA. Speed. Coordination. Intelligence. They stopped decaying. They started hunting. And the people in the cages? Marla asked. Control samples. They use survivors to track how the new strain spreads. They release runners on them like rats in a maze. A silence fell. One of horror. One of rage. Jonas looked at the others. We end it. Tonight. How? Garrett asked. Sorelli nodded toward a locked case near the far wall. There's still enough reagent left to ignite the lab's failsafe protocol. It'll burn everything. Destroy the samples. Erase all data. Can we save the prisoners? Lila asked. Only if we move fast. They freed Sorelli, grabbed what gear they could, and began setting charges around the lab. Time was short. As they climbed back through the hatch, Sorelli whispered, the beacon, it's not just a trap. It's a signal. They're calling for reinforcements. More camps. More labs. You stop this one, but others will rise. Jonas looked back, jaw tight. Then we'll burn every last one. The air inside the camp buzzed with tension. Above ground, guards paced the perimeter, their rifles swinging casually. They had no idea what was coming. Below, deep beneath the surface, the survivors moved with purpose. Jonas, Marla, Travis, Elise, Garrett, and now Lila and Dr. Sorelli, had set the charges. Beacon 7 was about to burn. We hit fast, Jonas whispered. 2 teams. Marla, Garrett, and Lila, you take the cages, free the survivors. Elise, Travis, Sorelli, and I go for the comms tower. We cut the signal before it spreads. What about the guards? Travis asked, checking the magazine in his pistol. Quiet if we can. Loud if we have to. Sorelli handed Jonas a small detonator. One push and the lab goes up. Don't use it until everyone's clear. He nodded, gripping it tightly. They climbed through a vent that led into the heart of the camp. It opened behind a storage shed near the fence line. The shadows hid them for now. From there, they split, two teams disappearing into the chaos. Marla crouched low as she led Garrett and Lila around the back of the cages. The prisoners inside were dazed, some too weak to speak. Others rushed to the bars, eyes wide with desperate hope. Shoo, Marla whispered. We're getting you out. She used Garrett's crowbar to pry the locks. One by one, the cages opened. Lila knelt beside a young woman holding a small child. Can you walk? The woman nodded, eyes brimming with tears. We heard the shots last week. Thought we were next. You're not, Lila said firmly. You're getting out. Meanwhile, Jonas's team reached the guard tower. A soldier stood near the base, smoking, unaware. Jonas didn't hesitate. He crept up behind and slammed the butt of his rifle into the man's head. The body dropped silently into the dirt. They entered the tower. Inside, glowing monitors displayed coordinates and status logs. One screen blinked red, transmission active. Elise slid into the chair and began typing. They're sending out daily pings to other stations. How many? Jonas asked. She paused. At least 6 other beacons. Possibly more. Can you kill the signal? Yes. But not quietly. Travis looked out the window. Then we make some noise. Outside, alarms blared. One of the prisoners had shouted too loud. A guard spotted movement, people running from cages. He fired a shot into the air, then yelled into his radio. Within seconds, the whole camp was awake. Go! Marla shouted as she helped the last prisoner to their feet. Gunfire erupted behind them. Garrett fired back, dropping 2 guards. Marla pulled Lila behind a stack of crates. The floodlights turned, sweeping the camp. One beam caught Jonas's group climbing the tower. Bullets ricocheted off the metal railings. Sorelli ducked and shoved a chair under the door handle. They'll break through fast, she warned. Then we shut it down now, Jonas growled. Elise tapped furiously. Wiping data. Cutting transmission. Give me 30 seconds. Travis leaned out the window, rifle raised. He spotted a guard running toward the cages and fired. The man fell. Below, chaos reigned. Prisoners were scattering in every direction. Some fought with bare hands. Others grabbed dropped weapons. Marla led them toward the maintenance tunnel. The gate creaked open just as more guards rushed in from the north fence. Lila shouted, "We need cover." Garrett grabbed a smoke grenade from a fallen soldier's vest and pulled the pin. A thick gray cloud billowed out, masking their retreat. Time's up. Elise cried. Jonas slammed the comm switch. Transmission terminated. At that moment, the tower door burst open. 3 armed soldiers stormed in. Too late. Jonas hit the detonator. The underground lab exploded with a deafening roar. The ground shook violently. Fire belched from the cracks beneath the camp. Concrete split. The towers swayed. Flames shot through vents and tunnels, consuming everything below. Jonas's group leapt from the tower just as it began to collapse. They landed hard in the dirt and scrambled toward the smoke, coughing, bloodied, but alive. Marla saw them emerge and waved frantically. This way. The survivors poured into the tunnel, the ones from the cages, the ones who came to fight, the ones who believed there might still be something to fight for. Behind them, Beacon 7 burned. Sorelli limped beside Elise. We destroyed their work, but it won't be the last. Jonas glanced back at the inferno. Then we stay ahead of them. Garrett sealed the tunnel grate as the last guard's shout echoed behind them. A distant growl followed. Travis turned, wide-eyed. Runners? No, Marla said, her voice cracking. It wasn't runners. It was something worse. From the far trees, behind the burning camp, silhouettes emerged. Tall. Slender. Too smooth. Too fast. Their eyes gleamed unnaturally in the flames. Mutations, Sorelli whispered. They released them. The ground shook again. Jonas looked ahead, then back. Run. The tunnel behind them roared with collapsing metal as Beacon 7's ruins caved in. But it was the sound from outside, the high-pitched, unearthly screeches, that made the survivors run faster. Jonas led the group through the underground system, flashlight bouncing wildly across the curved concrete walls. The injured stumbled. Children cried. Even the air felt thinner now, heavy with ash and fear. They're gaining, Elise said, panting. She clutched Lila's arm, urging her forward. We need to find shelter now. Marla, glancing back, saw it, something moving just beyond the flickering light. Too fast. Too fluid. Its limbs bent at unnatural angles. Not a runner. Something new. Something made. What are those things? Travis asked, as the tunnel opened into a larger corridor filled with debris. Sorelli didn't look back. Stage 3 mutations. Experimental. I warned them it was unstable. They look like they crawled out of hell, Garrett muttered. Hell would have been more merciful, she replied. They burst into an abandoned service junction, 3 paths split ahead. One curved upward toward the surface. The second descended into deeper drainage lines. The third, half flooded, looked untouched. Jonas stopped, chest heaving. We need to split. One group draws them away. The others keep the civilians moving. What? Marla snapped. No. We stay together. If we stay together, they'll catch all of us, he said. Someone has to buy time. There was a pause. Heavy. Silent. Garrett stepped forward. I'll go with him. No, Elise said. We just got you back, Garrett. We're not losing you now. I'm not dying, he said. I'm giving everyone else a chance. Lila looked up at Jonas. I'll go too. You're just a kid, Travis said, grabbing her shoulder. I know these tunnels better than anyone here, she argued. And I'm faster than you. Jonas hesitated, torn. But time was slipping. The screeches were growing louder. Finally, he nodded. All right. Garrett, Lila, you take the right tunnel. Loop back through the upper shaft and double back if you lose them. Don't fight unless you have to. Marla's eyes locked with Jonas. And you? I'm taking the center. I'll draw them into the deep lines and collapse the vent behind me. That'll buy you at least 10 minutes. No, she grabbed his arm. We do this together. That was the deal. This is together, Jonas said. You're the one they'll follow if I don't make it. Keep them moving. Get them somewhere safe. She looked like she wanted to scream, to punch him, to beg him not to go. But she knew. He had already made up his mind. Without another word, Jonas turned and disappeared down the center corridor, footsteps fading fast. Garrett and Lila took the flooded tunnel. Their shadows vanished into the darkness. Let's move. Marla shouted. They took the upward tunnel, the path leading to the surface. Travis helped Elise support Sorelli. Marla held a flashlight in one hand and her pistol in the other. Every few seconds, she turned back, hoping to see Jonas returning. He didn't. Above, they emerged in what had once been an industrial district, storage yards and warehouses, long abandoned. The city skyline was broken and jagged, smudged in blood-red dusk. Smoke from Beacon 7 still climbed behind them. Sorelli collapsed to her knees, coughing. We need higher ground. If those things climb, they'll be here before nightfall. Elise spotted an old freight office on a small hill overlooking the yard. That building. Steel frame. We can seal it. They moved fast, urging the civilians along. The freight office was dusty and partially collapsed, but the inner rooms were intact. They barricaded the lower entrances with old metal shelving, crates, and an overturned forklift. Inside, it was quiet. The kind of quiet that made every creak sound like thunder. Garrett and Lila? Elise asked. Marla shook her head. No sign yet. And Jonas? Travis asked, though he already knew the answer. Marla stared out the cracked window at the burning valley. He'll make it. But her voice betrayed doubt. That night, they took shifts. Some slept. Some wept. The rescued survivors sat in small clusters, whispering, hugging, waiting. Outside, distant shrieks echoed, but none came close. Not yet. Just past midnight, a soft knock came at the back door. 3 quiet taps. Marla raced down, weapon drawn. Garrett stood there, covered in mud, bloodied but breathing. Beside him, Lila limped but smiled. They took the bait, Garrett said. Don't know how long it'll last. And Jonas? Marla asked. Garrett's face fell. He stayed back. The tunnel collapsed before I could reach him. Something inside Marla cracked, but she didn't let it show. Not yet. We survive, she whispered. That's what he wanted. She looked around at the people gathered in the freight office, all watching her now. Waiting. Hoping. And for the first time, Marla stepped forward, not as the engineer, or the frightened survivor, but as the one who would lead them. There's more like Beacon 7 out there, she said. But we'll find them. And we'll burn them all down. Morning broke with no warmth. Just pale light seeping through gray clouds. The freight office creaked in the wind, metal panels clanging like distant bells. It had been a long, restless night. Marla stood at the window, arms crossed, staring toward the valley. Beacon 7 was gone. Smoke still rose, trailing like a scar across the sky. She didn't cry. Not yet. Behind her, Elise moved quietly through the survivors, checking bandages, offering food. Lila sat on a blanket, sharpening a small blade with focused intensity. Garrett cleaned his rifle, silent as always. Travis paced near the rear exit, listening for any sound that didn't belong. Sorelli sat in the corner with a map stretched across a dusty table. Her hand trembled as she circled a point near the mountains. There, she said finally. A research facility, off-grid. Not listed in any public network. I worked there before I was reassigned to Beacon 7. Another lab? Marla asked. Not like the others, Sorelli said. It was a fail-safe. In case the infection couldn't be contained, this place was supposed to preserve the last genetic blueprints of uninfected humanity. A cure? Maybe. Or at least a future. Travis stepped forward. Or another trap. I know the risks, Sorelli said. But if Beacon 7's tech was connected to this place, they'll know it exists. We need to get there before they do. How far? Marla asked. 3 days on foot, Sorelli answered. But we'll need supplies, and we'll need to move now. Marla nodded, then turned to the group. We break into teams. Scavenge the warehouses nearby. Only what we can carry. No hero moves. We move in 30. As the others prepared, Garrett pulled Marla aside. His eyes were dark. There's something you should see. He led her behind the freight office, toward an overgrown loading bay. Tucked inside an old trailer was a body. Male. Burned, bloodied, barely recognizable until she saw the broken radio in his hand. Jonas, she whispered. Garrett nodded. I think he made it out. Tried to circle back to us. But they got him first. She felt her knees, breath ripped from her chest. There was no dignity in his death. Just ash. Just blood. But next to him, scratched into the side of the trailer with a knife, were 4 words. Keep going. For them. Tears streamed silently down her face. Garrett placed a hand on her shoulder. He died buying us time. Marla wiped her face, steeling herself. Then we don't waste it. They buried Jonas just beyond the loading yard, under a metal sign that once read, Authorized personnel only. Elise found a piece of scrap wood and carved the same message into it, keep going. For them. By noon, they were ready. A group of 27 survivors, armed with scavenged supplies and hope that felt too fragile to carry. The road ahead was broken and wild, winding toward the foothills where the mountains waited like silent giants. But as they moved out, a shadow followed. Lila noticed it first. A figure, always just out of range. Watching. Never approaching. Garrett doubled back, flanked through an alley, and returned pale. We're being tracked. Undead? Marla asked. No. Human. That night, they made camp near a half-buried church overtaken by vines and ash. Fires were kept low. Conversations lower. Sorelli worked with Elise to review the lab's old schematics. If it's intact, she said, we'll need to get through 2 biometric doors, and a sealed cryovault. What's in the vault? Travis asked. Embryonic cells. DNA from before the collapse. Uncorrupted. The kind we could use to restart what's left of the world. And the military knows? They did. But only the Beacon 7 director had access. If he survived, he's already heading there. In the shadows beyond the camp, a figure crept close, hooded, rifle in hand. But this wasn't the military. It was a survivor. One who had escaped Beacon 7 and seen what came next. The hooded figure stepped forward and lowered the scarf around their face. Marla's eyes widened. Jonas, she whispered. He looked older, thinner, with a long gash stitched across his brow. I escaped the collapse, he said, voice rough. Track the others heading west. They're not done. Beacon 7 was just the start. Lila stared at him, stunned. But we thought. I planted the radio, Jonas said. To throw them off. Marla rushed forward, grabbing his arms. We thought you were dead. I almost was, he said. But now I know where they're going. That lab? It's not a secret anymore. Elise stepped forward, heart racing. What are you saying? I'm saying, Jonas replied, that if we want to stop what's coming next, we'll have to destroy the one place left that might hold the cure. The snow began to fall by the time they reached the mountain base, thin flakes drifting through scorched air, melting as they hit the cracked road. Trees stood like skeletons around the group, their twisted limbs swaying in silence. In the distance, embedded into the cliffside like a wound, was the entrance to the hidden lab. No guards. No patrols. Too quiet. Jonas raised his rifle and motioned for the group to stop. This is it. The coordinates match. That door leads into the vault. Garrett moved ahead cautiously, checking the tree line. If they got here first, they're hiding. Elise adjusted her backpack and exhaled. We go in. We end this. The survivors had shrunk to 21. Along the way, a few had succumbed to infection, others to the elements. But those who remained had come this far for something more than survival. They'd come for purpose. As they approached the lab door, Sorelli stepped forward. She scanned her palm across a rusted biometric panel. The machine word sputtered, then blinked green. A hiss followed as the reinforced steel door unlocked and slid open. Inside, the corridor was dark, cold, and coated in frost. Emergency lights flickered. Power still hummed somewhere deep within the complex. The group moved slowly through the narrow halls, weapons drawn, eyes on every corner. Marla stared at the crumbling ceiling. How long since anyone's been here? Sorelli wiped frost off a console. Years. Maybe longer. As they rounded a bend, they found them, bodies. 6, in full military gear. Some shot. Others torn apart. Garrett crouched beside one. These weren't infected kills, he said. This was a fight. Who were they fighting? Lila asked. A voice answered from the shadows. Me. Everyone spun. A lone man stepped into the light. Older, tall, sharp eyes under a weathered cap. A black patch with a red insignia sat on his chest, beacon command. I'm Colonel Vex, he said. And I assume you're the ones who turned Beacon 7 into a pile of ash. Jonas raised his rifle. You were behind the camps. The testing. The executions. I was behind containment, Vex said, calmly. Not chaos. You destroyed the only controlled facility left. And now you're here to do the same to the last viable lab on Earth? Sorelli stepped forward, furious. You weaponized the infected. You accelerated mutation. We did what had to be done, Vex said. To prepare for what's coming. What's coming? Elise asked. He looked at them, steady. The collapse of every remaining holdout. Your petty survivor camps? They'll be gone in a year. The infected are evolving faster than we can document. The only thing that can save our species is here. The vault. And I won't let you ruin that. Then why are you standing alone? Marla challenged. Vex's expression hardened. Because not everyone agreed with the cost of salvation. He raised his weapon, only to have Garrett shoot it clean from his hands. The room exploded into shouts and movement. Jonas tackled Vex. Marla kicked the rifle away. Travis slammed the door behind them. Enough! Sorelli shouted. She stepped to the central console and entered her credentials. A rumble echoed through the lab as a hidden wall slid open, revealing the cryovault. Tubes of glowing blue liquid lined the room. Inside each, preserved genetic material. Pure, untouched. Humanity's past, its chance at a future. But beside the vault, sat a console with 2 switches. One green, unlock and preserve. One red, purge system. Marla approached. What is this? Sorelli looked down. The final protocol. If the lab falls into the wrong hands, the genetic material is to be destroyed to prevent weaponization. Jonas stared at the switches. If Vex escapes with this, he'll create soldiers, not survivors. But if we destroy it, Lila whispered, what's left for the world? Vex, still on the floor, laughed bitterly. This is the problem with your kind. You think you can save everyone. But the real world, the one that's coming, it needs leaders, not dreamers. Marla turned to the group. We choose, she said. Not him. Us. A long silence followed. Then Jonas nodded. This vault could rebuild the world. But not if it costs our soul. Garrett spoke next. We burn the darkness. But we protect the light. Sorelli stepped forward. There's another way. She opened a hidden compartment beneath the console, inside, a drive. A data backup. Encrypted. Hidden. We take this. We destroy the vault. That way, if someone truly worthy finds it, they'll know where to begin again. Marla took the drive. Let's finish this. She pushed the red switch. The vault alarms began to scream. Vats hissed. Liquid drained. One by one, the pods cracked and melted. Outside, the survivors ran for the exit. Behind them, the lab's walls collapsed in flame and pressure. From the mountainside, they watched as fire and smoke poured from the earth. Gone. But in Marla's hand, the drive pulsed with blinking blue light. Jonas turned to her. What now? She looked at the horizon. We rebuild. And this time, we do it right.